This is Pro Wrestling Illustrated, a love letter to independent wrestling from Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. I am one of your hosts, PWI Editor-in-Chief Kevin McElvaney. With me here, as always, the Good Witch, the Divine Darling, the Conduit of Karma, the Batch Baddie, La Bruja Mas Technica, Kaia McKenna.
Oh
I just
God!
gave you an extra. I nailed that intro. I remembered all the nicknames.
Am I a cyborg witch now? Is
Yes.
this like the evolution of my
Kaia McKenna. Kaia McKenna. Kaia, how's it going?
It's going great, actually. Just really enjoying the fact that we are in autumn, which seems to be a very busy, thriving season for the world of professional wrestling, especially independent wrestling. So
yeah, absolutely. And we have a very exciting guest here today, whose name is much easier to pronounce because it's only 2 syllables. Not that Kaia McKenna is that hard. But you've seen her all over the place. Queen of the Indies, Hyan. Hyan, welcome to Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I mean, you've had a lot going on, starting with that, we have a few things I want to get into here today, but we would be remiss, I think, if we didn't start with the Queen of the Indies tournament, which you won out in California West Coast Pro, defeating Masha Slamovich. Talk about that experience and what that meant to you.
It was probably like one of the biggest challenges in general with like tournaments, wrestling multiple times in one day, and really trying to put on like your best performance is always extremely challenging. But luckily I had like really good opponents. Maya World was awesome. And it was great to get back in there with Masha because I actually lost to her in the first round last year. So I felt like it was a cool full circle moment to meet her in the finals and then get that win in the end.
I was going to ask about that specifically because it's a very interesting setup where you tagged with Masha in the 2nd round and then you have to turn around and you wrestle each other. So strategy, right? Because you have to work with somebody and meet them halfway so you're both victorious, but you don't want to give away too much of your bag or too many of your secrets because you have to turn right around. You got to wrestle them. So how was that mentally? That's a curveball.
It is. And honestly, I'm not a tag wrestler. I want to be. I just don't do tags very often. I don't get booked in them. So having to do a tag with someone that I'm going to wrestle like 15 minutes later, yeah, it's a huge challenge. And it really put my brain to work. My brain, and when it was all said and done, everyone was like, how'd you feel? How'd you feel? How'd you feel? And I was like, I was just happy it was over. I was so stressed out that day. But on the plane ride back, because I had to catch my flight immediately after, I was just trying to soak it in. And I was like, I can't believe that just happened. That was crazy.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, and a win over someone like Masha Slamovich is huge, and the tournament has become prestigious. So you have a situation where, yeah, you had to kind of flex these different skills, and something like tag team wrestling, you only get, I mean, let's be honest too, there are fewer tag team opportunities on the independents to begin with, and then even more so for women wrestlers. So, it's understandable you wouldn't have as much experience there. But then, of course, on the singles side, that's where you shine. You've just been doing so much lately. You've got to be exhausted, honestly. I mean, you've just been doing.
Like we were chatting about it, before we, went live. I flew in this morning at like 8 a.m., landed in Houston at 8 a.m., and I just like napped. I was like, I need to catch up on my sleep for this weekend. I love pro wrestling, but when it comes to the weekend, I operate on minimum sleep.
I was just talking to that with some of the newer students out here at Black and Brave. I was like, everybody's like, I can't wait until I can fly places. I'm so excited for that. And I was like, at least when you're driving, you can sleep in the back of a car. I feel like when I have a fly weekend, I don't sleep at all on Saturday. Like there's just no sleep that happens until I'm on that plane Sunday morning going home.
Like, so like you have to wake up early to make the fly, and I don't really sleep well on planes. I can if I'm like I have to be totally exhausted for me to fall asleep, but typically I'm like awake. And yeah, it's not much sleep.
Brutal. Like everybody thinks they want that life and then you're living it and you're like, I am tired.
Yeah, no one talks about that part. That's really what gets you. It's not the wrestling, like the actual wrestling part. It's the traveling.
Yeah, you get paid to travel. You don't get paid to wrestle. You wrestle for like what, 10, 15 minutes? You're on a plane traveling for 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And they call those red-eye flights for a reason. I think you took one of those, if memory serves.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. Whenever I was at ETU,
Yep.
I flew in from San Francisco to Houston, actually, because I was doing motion capture in San Francisco. Back into Houston. My flight from Houston to New York was maybe like a few hours after I landed. So I was like, there's no point in me going home. So I just stayed in the airport, made my flight there, did the match. Also had a 5 a.m. flight from Newark to Dallas. And I did the Ring of Honor tapings then all day. So I was like, oh my God. And then drive from Dallas back to Houston, which is like another 4 hours. I was running on fumes.
That's so much. And when we ran into each other at the ETU show, I think I forgot. I knew that you were coming in and you were flying right back out, but then to have ROH tapings after that, you did the mocap stuff. It's just a lot.
And it seems like it was one of those situations where it's like you get out of one thing late and your flight is early, and there's just not enough time between when you leave your thing, get to the airport, and have to fly out to justify getting a hotel in any capacity, because it's just money down the drain at that point. So you're like, well, I'll just sleep in the airport, I suppose, because that's what makes sense.
But I'm not complaining, It's literally like living the dream. There's no complaints on my end. I was like, because once the week rolls around, I'm like, okay, I can catch up on my sleep now.
Just die for 3 days straight. Just
pretty much.
You've been doing not just flying around and making towns, but you've been doing a lot on the tournament side, because you were in another tournament at Deadlock Pro. Unfortunately, you did not make it past I guess it was the quarterfinal or semifinal round.
Semifinal, yeah.
Semifinal. Okay, so you were close. You beat Kylie Ray in the first round. There was a little bit of tension after. So you had Danny Luna in the semifinal. Unfortunately, lost that. And then talk about what happened there, because I think there were some crosswords thrown, certainly from your direction toward her. What happened?
I definitely lost my cool. I think everyone will see that. I'm just preparing myself for next week when the episode airs and everyone can see the temper tantrum that I threw. If you've seen a Christian WWF temper tantrum in the ring, think of that, because I was completely out of breath, dying, just from that temper tantrum alone. And it looks like there's going to be more Danny Luna versus Hyan in Deadlock Pro.
Seems like it was a very emotionally charged situation, especially in a tournament when you've put so much effort and struggle and triumph and focus.
Yes, because I've been literally waiting for my shot for that belt. I've won #1 contenderships, and then everyone just keeps skipping the line over me.
Oh, I'd be mad too.
I already won the #1 contendership, and then they make a tournament for the number. I said, hold on. I thought this was already established. It's been established.
I'm right here.
It's like an actual robbery. It's an actual robbery, and I'm 100% justified in my rage.
I love what they're doing over at Deadlock Pro. They're bringing in some amazing people from all over the world, really high level of competition there. But I think I'm on your side here. I think you've earned your title shot. You should get your title shot whether or not you win this tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. Did you see who they just announced for the arena show?
No.
They announced FTR.
Ooh.
Wow.
In North Carolina. I was like, that's going to be sick.
Yeah, home turf there. That's awesome.
I was like, they're hometown boys.
Yeah, that's in Charlotte, I think, the big show.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you feel like that when you get to wrestle in Houston? Is there just something special about wrestling in your hometown with your home crowd?
It is, actually. I still get chills when I hear the announcer go, from Houston, Texas. I just have a lot of pride from where I'm from. And it's always so much fun. And it's like this crowd has seen me grow from a little baby to where I'm at now, and I still see some of the same faces. I've seen children grow up in front of my eyes.
That's a funny place to get to, where you've been like, but then you probably hold a special place in their hearts because they're watching you all this time, and it's like, oh, Hyan's still not only out there, but like really just hitting her stride. Because I think that's the perception of you now, is that people have known you've been good for a few years, but like you're on the cusp of something truly huge, I think.
It feels like it. And I have to try to stop and soak it in, because I have a really bad habit of being like, okay, so what's next? All right, so what's next? What's next? And so I never get a chance to fully marinate on what's going on. But I've been really good about doing it this time, especially after the Queen of the Indies. Like the next day, my husband was like, "Hello, Queen of the Indies." I was like, "Yeah, I am the Queen of the Indies." He said, "I'm the king consort."
We love a wife guy. We love a wife guy.
Yeah, he's my biggest fan.
Except when you were feuding over that new Texas Pro Championship, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, your husband, for anyone who doesn't know, Stephen Wolf.
Yes. Actually, what's so funny is like we're doing this feud, and my mom calls me on the phone, and she's just like, because he had like jumped me after a match, and he cut this promo. And like for shoot, I didn't know he was going to do this. Like I genuinely didn't know this was going to happen. He cuts this promo after he beat me up, and I'm just laying there and I'm looking at him, and he throws his wedding ring at me in the ring. And I didn't know he was going to do that. And I looked at it like, dang, dude, that was kind of cold. And my mom calls me the next day because she saw like the clips from like my Instagram story. And she's just like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I don't like this. She's like, you're making a mockery of your marriage. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. And I was like, Mom, you should come to the next show. She's like, I'm not. She did not go out of protest. And also she was mad at Steven. I was like, Mom, you have to understand. And
it's tough being a son-in-law, especially when you're having a wrestling match with your wife.
Yeah. And my mom saw him chopping me, and she's just like, I do not like this. I'm not going to the show.
Why does he not just lay down for you and take the pin like a gentleman?
That would have been the gentlemanly thing to do. Are they okay now?
They did make up, but there was like truly a rift where I was like, Mom, I had to be like, Mom, you can't get this mad. Because like even I had to recruit like my cousin, because my cousin went to the show, my cousin and my aunt. And my cousin and my aunt were like talking to my mom, like, you need to relax. Like, everything's going to be okay. You know, they worked it out.
So he's got heat.
She's okay. She's not hurt.
I mean, does it help her knowing that you made the PWI 500 in part because of that? I can't imagine it does.
I have to show her sometimes. I was like, look, Mom, I'm in a magazine. Yeah. This is all working out for me. She's just like, okay, this is very cool.
It's like the wildest thing to like be in the magazine, because I don't know if you probably did read this magazine as a child, right? So it's like you remember seeing everybody in it, and then it's to see yourself on a list with some of the greats is probably like such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it blows my mind. And I always try to keep a copy of, if I'm ever mentioned, try to keep a copy of it. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, like, this is all going to be a memory, right? We can't do this forever. So I really try to hold on to, stuff like that. So when I'm like a grandma, I can be like, look what I did, You gotta
have like 500 copies just backed up to her house.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a tangible thing that you can, like you said, point to years later. Yeah. It's a record of it. And in a world where a lot of stuff gets lost to time,
Yeah. Physical media is important.
You're speaking my language. And I mean, really, I mean, I think I've said this before on here, but I grew up reading the magazines as well. So, by even just when I started writing, like now editing it, like I have to pinch myself every day. So I don't take that lightly when a wrestler says that it means a lot to get in there. That's kind of why we do it. We want to showcase, pro wrestling and pro wrestlers. So
y'all got to bring back the almanac. I listed so many hours of my life reading that almanac as a child.
If you're going to buy all the extra copies of the almanac that don't get sold, then maybe we can do that. I don't think that's
a digital special, maybe.
Yeah, because it is a lot of work, and it was not selling. I get used to. I don't think that's a secret. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that publicly before. Not on this show. I don't think the almanac has come up, or maybe it has. I don't know. But yeah, another cool thing that you did recently, Hyan, is you were at the TNA Wrestling taping, which was not an announced thing, and you were Xia Li, her new, I have to look up her new name because it's completely new to me, Lei Ying Li. And yeah, you wrestled with her. I mean, she's also been doing work on the independents, but TNA Wrestling in the Knockouts division, really just one of the foremost women's divisions really in the history of wrestling.
Yeah.
So how exciting was that?
It was incredible because it wasn't like an explosion match that they do sometimes. It was, on the show. And I was her first opponent. Like, I was in her debut. So that's a big honor to be part of someone's debut. And I know there's extra pressure that goes into it as well because it's their debut. So you want to make sure it goes perfect for them, and it reflects on you as well if you're able to make someone else look good. And sell and do what you have to do. And I felt like I, did everything to the best of my ability. I was there the day before as well for the pay-per-view. So I got to see the sold out crowd, and the crowd was still very, very rowdy the next day for the tapings. So I was really, really impressed to see, how far TNA has come. Like, the TNA that's here now is different from what it was 2 years ago. And what it was 2 years before that is completely different. And you can just see the trajectory of it going up and up and up. The crowds growing, the popularity growing, the pay-per-views are doing more numbers. I feel like the Knockouts division is getting the love that it so truly has always deserved because Jordan, Masha, all the girls there, they're the top.
Danny Luna, your rival? Yeah.
Danny Luna, yeah. They're all so talented and rightfully deserve to be in TNA. TNA, I feel like, is one of the best places for women's wrestlers.
I was just sitting here thinking, because you mentioned Danny Luna, and we were talking about the DPW championship and how it's eluded you. You did, however, recently get your hands on a very cool, important championship for First Wrestling.
I did.
Warhorse. So tell us about that. And not only did you dethrone Warhorse, but you did it in the Mall of America, that's a whole, we could talk about that too.
Yes.
Hours, right?
So
how was that?
Sometimes I feel like I just so focus on like what's in front of me that I don't really like pay attention to like everything else. But like I remember I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing the Mall of America. And it didn't hit me until I actually got there and I walked around the whole mall and I saw the setup. And I was like, oh, this is huge. This is massive. And just, it was incredibly like set up, so professional. Like Mall of America, like really went all out for this. And I was announced to be on the show, but I was like the mystery opponent for Warhorse, and we opened up the show. So, there's that extra pressure because the opener kind of sets the tone for everything else. And it was our first time ever wrestling, me and Warhorse. And we went out there and the energy was insane. And I remember just going out there and just looking up and like seeing everyone and really trying to soak it in. Cause like even before I went out, Eric Cannon was like, soak it in, look up, like make sure you look at everyone, look at everything. And that's exactly what I was trying to do. I've never been in a crowd that was just so like loud and rowdy. And God, it was so much fun. And whenever I won, I didn't really expect to win, to be honest. I just kind of went there and I was like, yeah, I'm going to wrestle the Mall of America. And then like, oh, you're also winning the belt. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And I've just been like riding this like high, I guess, ever since. It's just been really great. And I love wrestling for First. I've been wrestling there for literally since I was living in the Midwest. And it's always been a really fun spot. And I just love working over there and doing the WrestlePalooza shows. It's such a sleeper promotion because they don't really stream on like the big platforms. But it is a really, really cool company. So if anyone's able to go to a show, definitely go.
And this one, they have been going for a long time and the crowds tend to be great there, but you have this venue that I mean, it's not a historic wrestling venue, but for the fact that Monday Nitro took place there. But it's, you know, still the most grandiose mall in the US. And then have this event there. The crowd is always great. And then this championship you won too. I mean, it's worth noting, like, there are some championships that kind of like have the hot potato effect that change a lot. This is not one of those. This is one. Devon Monroe had it for a better part of a couple of years. Blanking, there was a champion. Brandon Gore and Brian Keith did have the belt for a bit. So yeah,
Gigi Dolan now in NXT, she had the belt for a while.
Yep. But it tends to be like these 6, 12 or more month reigns. I mean, this is not like when people get this, they hold on tight to it. So I think you have that expectation of you. You're gonna have to be that, you know, defending champion.
Yeah, I know. I can't lose it the first defense.
Nope.
Long may she reign.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I'm trying to politic. I'm like, I want to wrestle Eric Cannon.
I would love to see that match happen. We've got to get that happening.
I want that so bad because he's so good. He's been wrestling forever, and he has like a really great mind for it. And I really want to wrestle him.
He's like a very underappreciated guy.
Like,
in business. He's important.
I was talking to some of the guys at first, and I was like, I really want to wrestle Cannon, and they're like, I think we can make it happen.
He like gets what we're trying to do here. You know, there are a lot of people in this business that are very capable individuals, but I sometimes question, I'm like, do they really understand what we're trying to do here? And it's like, no, Eric Cannon, like 110% gets what we're trying to accomplish with professional wrestling.
He gets it. He gets it.
Man, it's a lot. Again, we've covered a lot of ground here, but you've been covering a lot of ground. Actually, one other thing I wanted to ask you about. So you worked with Alicia Fox.
I did,
yeah. Vix Crow at New Texas. I think she's starting to get her flowers a little bit. Like, people are looking back and appreciating her, you know, not just as a former champion, but somebody who really had a unique presence and persona in a division that, like, let's be honest, in a lot of cases was working actively against that. You know, and it was not the fault of anyone who was wrestling there. It's more just the company. It was kind of an afterthought. But she's like, nope, that's not me, you know? So she's just incredible. What was that like, you know, having that interaction with her, getting in the ring with her?
She's awesome. So I actually wrestled her first at F1RST Wrestling, and we ended up doing a rematch at New Texas Pro. And like, it's so cool to be like, I wrestled like a former WWE Divas champion. That's still mind blowing to say, but it was the first time I've really wrestled someone like of that caliber, you know, besides like Mickie James, but really to be able to pick her brain afterwards. She's really down to earth and just like the easiest person to talk to. Goes out of her way to talk to everyone on the card, watch all the girls' matches, give her input where she can. And I can see that she's like starting to really get into the independent wrestling scene, and kind of seeing like, you know, it can be fun. Like, wrestling outside of WWE is fun, and there are opportunities out there, and, you know, you can make connections with people. And, you know, I literally got the photos from the show like yesterday, and I sent her a text message. I was like, here are the photos from our match. And she said, thank you so much. Congrats, champ. So she's definitely following like independent wrestling.
I love that she's found such a home in it and is like embracing it. That's so great to hear, because she was always just one of the most entertaining divas they ever had. I just always liked to watch her growing up as well. So
yeah.
I love her antics. Like, she gets it. I was just saying, like, there are just people who understand what we're trying to do here, and she's definitely one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Another person I'm interested to see increasingly on the independent circuit, though not any matches yet, is JBL.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I saw that last night too. I was like, okay, JBL.
Yeah, he was at the TNA pay-per-view.
And
I was
GCW,
marking out so bad.
Yeah.
I
And
like Texas guy. Like I loved him growing up, even though he was a heel. And even though he was like feuding with Eddie Guerrero, who was also one of my favorites. But
yep.
like I truly enjoyed like what he was doing.
Their feud was so great though.
Yeah, yeah. And
So good.
yeah, and then you just see him in person, you're just like, dude, you're massive. And he was giving everybody clotheslines in the
Yep.
ring, and I was like, God, they're so lucky. I wish JBL could
Big
clothesline
clothesline
me.
from JBL.
Yeah, he showed up. So TNA, GCW, MLW now, AAA, I think. Like he's just
He's on this like epic side quest right now.
JBL World Tour.
Yeah, I wonder what
I'm just gonna tweet out like I have the Buta show next week and be like, JBL, please do not, wink wink, show up to the new Texas Pro show, wink wink, at the pinballs in Buta, wink wink. The show starts at 7 p.m. Please do not come. Do not clothesline anyone.
Especially not me.
At JBL.
Oh,
like
that's
in the limo with the Longhorns on it.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that? Oh,
yes,
man.
I do.
Yeah. There's no forgetting it. That's too good. Good. You know, Hyan, I know you're busy. I want to give you a chance to plug, promote whatever you'd like to promote. But before we part ways, Kaia, any other questions that you have for our guest here?
No, I've just enjoyed hearing about your travels because you literally have been all over, and it's nice to just take 25 minutes and reflect on that and just appreciate it. It was cool. Thanks for making us a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing. Because sometimes, you get in your head and you just go like, does anybody even care what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. I've been there. I've been like, I feel like I am tired and I have been grinding, and I'm like, do people actually notice this, or am I just like out here doing this to do it?
In the ether, yeah.
They do.
So it is nice to feel
we
like,
notice,
oh, yeah.
And we appreciate you. And we respect what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here today. This has been great. Let people know how they can follow along with what you're doing. If there's anything specific you want to promote, merch, whatever, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at _ Hyan. So it's TheHyan, and on Instagram, Hyan. I have a big show coming up for a new Texas Pro at Buta. I'm wrestling Chris Bay for the first time ever. I'm really excited about it. I actually spoke to him about it at TNA because I was like, I want to keep up. I don't want you to have to drag me through this match. Like, I want us to go all out, like wrestle me like the guys. So I'm really, really excited to get in the ring with him and steal the show.
Yeah, that's awesome. Chris Bay is great. And I'm sure he'll, take you at your word there.
I spoke to him about it and he was like, I think people forget that, like, I can do stuff. So I'm really excited for this match. And I was like, Chris, I don't think anybody's forgotten that. I actually think that's 100% in your head. And he went, maybe
you're just talking about that. It's all in your head, right? Like, do people actually notice, or like, is it all in my head?
Like, do people know Chris Bay can go? Yes, I think they know.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I think it's all in your head, man. I think you're doing great.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you again so much for doing this. Thanks to everybody for following along, watching, listening to Pro Wrestling Indie. As always, want to send it back over to my co-host Kaia with, take us out on some witchy wisdom here.
I might retouch on one I've used before just because I feel like it's very relevant right now for a lot of people. I feel like there's a lot of big things happening and like transformations and changes and opportunities. So always remember, your words are your wands. You create magic with your words. So if you are using negative, self-deprecating words, that's going to be what happens for you. So speak kindly about yourself and speak kindly and positively about what you want, because your words are your wands, and that's how you create magic.
Wholesome.